And now for something completely different.
It's taken him about 3 hours. The directing staff give the coordinates for RV2, which will mean an 11-mile trek cross-country.
Gary Robertson, number 8 staff.
It was horribly clear the long drag was beginning to take its toll.
I just can feel it on the left shoulder, just completely numb.
If it goes completely numb, you've got to just stop for a while and let it come back, because otherwise you could hurt you.
I
said you couldn't hurt yourself, you could.
No matter what state they're in, the clock is always running.
I don't know, I'm going through trying to work out whether I want to carry on or not.
Compared to real SAS selection times, some of the volunteers are already 2 hours behind.
I think I've known for about the last 15 minutes sitting there, I'm not carrying on.
Yeah,
just didn't want to admit it to myself.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Decision made.
Okay.
One of the men, medical student Henry, hasn't moved for 30 minutes.
In the past sort of mile and a half, just been unable to walk. Pretty frustrating, but I was doing really well and suddenly I sort of couldn't walk.
A few miles further on, and another man is down. Jason, the school caretaker, who was out in front. The hours before dawn are the hardest. It's cold, your energy is sapped, and just putting one foot in front of the other seems an almost impossible task. 2 more are down. Student Paul and teacher Steve were found disorientated and very weak by one of the directing staff. So concerned for their safety, he made them eat.
I think I'm gonna have to stop if I'm sensible. That's the right word.
With the clock against them, it's decision time for Paul and Steve. In stark contrast, Carl and IT manager Jonathan have already got to RV2. They had marched the 10 miles cross-country in 6 hours. It's 8 a.m. and in the last 2 days the volunteers have had an average of 3 hours sleep. They are about halfway through the allowed time for this exercise, but only a third of the way in distance. Sometime overnight, Sue and Louise have teamed up with Neil and Nick. However, they are somewhere behind Anna's group, who have already made it to RV2.
We found ourselves a leader, and then, well, she nominated herself basically because she was the best map reader.
I think I'm just making more bossy than some of the others.
Sue and Louise's group have taken 7 hours, but have finally made it to RV2.
When your body's fatigued, my mind will start playing tricks.
I've been hallucinating actually. Rocks have become sheep and trees windmills.
The only reason I foresee myself not carrying on the 10 days is, one, if I injure myself and I physically can't carry on, and 2, if one of the SAS guys say, no, you failed that, out, but I physically won't turn around and say to the chat, I want to stop. They're going to have to physically remove me off the mountain.
The bottom line is you've really got to believe in yourself. You know, I can do this in spite of these bastards. I can do it. They're not going to crack me, and I want to do it, and I want to do it for whatever reason it is.
These are miles behind time. You want to succeed here, you've got to get your gear together, get your shit together, and start motoring. You've got to get a move on.
Neil, Julie, and amazingly Paul and Steve, who almost gave up in the early hours, have made it past RV2. Neil, a prison officer, left the group soon after, and then headed off alone, eventually getting lost on the hills. Steve and Julie had stopped. Late in the day, it's time for reflection. This leaves Paul to find RV3 by himself. This is where everyone is heading, the elusive RV3. First in had been Carl. It had taken him an amazing 3 hours. As the rest of the front runners followed, it was clear that the back markers are some 7 hours behind. For safety, as the volunteers get to RV3, they're held, pending further instructions. 5 hours behind the leaders are Anna's group.
Right, you hold it there, see that space on your right, okay? If you form up there, and then come to me one at a time. 24.5.
In SAS selection, the directing staff perform spot checks on Bergens in case anyone has dropped weight. Our volunteers get no less.
Will you stop fanning around and get up here now? One of you! I don't care who it is!
But you know what's happened there?
What's happened?
I think I injured my shoulder.
Really?
And I did technically give up, but I really want to finish course rather than picked up in the middle of the road, so I checked 2 breaks out.
One of the groups falling way behind is Louise and Suze. Dr. Mike Stroud is dispatched to check on them.
What's the problem?
When did you get hit just now?
Yeah.
For you, you know, the fact is that there's a climb there, and you're feeling like shit, if they're saying technical medical service.
I think I better go back with them.
Come on. You ain't quit. You ain't quit yet. You ain't quit this fast. Come on. I think it's up there. Yeah? Let's do it. I think it's up there. Come on, we're going out there.
Come on. Okay.
So you want to go?
Yeah, we'll do it.
Come on. That's it. That's what it's about. Come on then. Let's stop messing about. We ain't got time to mess about.
What is interesting, I think, is that perhaps for some of them, for the first time in their life, they're realizing the importance of supporting each other, and that's interesting to see.
We won't leave her, but we'll still want to finish it. There's a 3.
She'll be safe.
Yeah.
I think she'd have been terribly disappointed in a day's time, or even when she got back in the helicopter, she didn't give it a shot to finish it.
It's been like, I feel like such a team, and they've kept me going.
The question is, has Sue's ongoing illness jeopardized her team?
This is my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fighting, this is for fun. This is my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fighting, this is for fun.
Right, stop there. First of all, you are nearly 6 hours behind the lead runner, which means you are out of time, gentlemen. So your little show is a bit naff, to say it mildly, isn't it? What's going on there? A little bit harsh?
No, basically, the last 3 that came in got in a straight line, advanced down the road, singing an American Army marching song. It was a stupid, childish behaviour. In the regiment, Special Air Service, the last thing we want is people with the mentality of a 5-year-old.
Unbeknown to those still out on the hills, RV3 was now the end of long drag. For those who had made it this far, their suffering was to be continued.
You take your rucksacks off, take all your clothes except your underwear off, put it inside your rucksack, that includes your belt kit, everything except your rifle. When one comes down here, you be first, when one comes down here, as soon as they move up, you start stripping, okay? Okay, as soon as he's halfway through, you start stripping. On a steady stream going through this water, okay? You got no underwear? Through your trousers, okay? Your waterproof parcel with your rucksack in is your flotation aid. You'll be going across with your flotation aid and your rifle on the top. We have a safety rope line across there. Do not try to grab it unless you're in serious trouble. Do not drop these rifles in the water. Okay? That means we're bringing divers to get the bastards out. Go. Stand up, stand up. Next.
After what can only be described as a monumental 24 hours, everyone has returned to base camp. It's now time to find out who stays and who's on the truck back home.
Okay, listen in. Dismissals.
Everyone has returned to base camp. It's now time to find out who stays and who's on the truck back home.
Okay, listen in. Dismissals. Okay, the following people have not successfully finished the last task. Sit down on the ground.
One of the volunteers asks to sit down. It's Paul Kemp, exhausted and close to fainting.
Henry Dowling. Rosie Guy. Julie Moore. Steve Jarr. Jason Westmoreland on the truck. Susan Apergus on the truck. Next for dismissal, put you out your misery, Neil Ridge. Okay, there's one other failure, Rima Pennsylvania on the truck.
No, you must be absolutely gutted.
I'm actually surprised. Because let me finish walk.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, I'm surprised. How do you feel?
The rest of these are all successfully through to the next stage of the course. Okay, let's have these out of your beds. Hurry up, get out, 2 minutes, get up. You've got 2 minutes. Let's go. Get out, 2 minutes up there. Come on, let's have you up.
Get
2
out of
minutes.
bed.
Get up here quickly. Leave your rifles.
I would never leave my baby on
You
stuff.
never leave your baby. You're leaving it this time because I'm telling you to.
Yes, sir.
I tell you to leave your baby or your wife. You get in parade, you come in parade. Okay, listen in. Strip your gear off. All you're allowed to keep on you is your trousers, a vest. When you've completed that, you'll then be searched. So, what we're about to go on with now is a bit of survival training. Come up here one at a time and pick up a coat. Okay, turn to your right. Follow me.
The escape and evasion phase of SAS selection will take place in a 112 square mile area over the next 24 hours. In SAS selection, it lasts a week.
You've got to imagine yourselves just broken out of a POW camp. That's why you've got no torches, maps, anything like that. It's all been taken off you. There's a hunter force out looking for you. If you get captured, then you're allowed to say 6 things, and 6 things only. Your name, your age, your occupation, the town you live in, blood group, and next of kin. And give me that pen, please. You weren't told to take that with you today. Just wipe that off your arm. This is enemy territory where you get dropped off properly. If you don't stop when you're captured and you start to struggle or fight, you'll end up getting a thumping. Understand that? Quite clear.
The ethos of the military way of life is that you acquire basic skills, practice those skills in the field, but you can only practice those skills realistically if you're part of a team. And it's the team that is crucial to completing the task. And I think this phase of the exercise is really going to teach them is the importance of supporting each other.
From the moment you leave here, the exercise starts.
The 4 teams have a 3-hour head start before the hunter force sets off.
Right, come on, let's have you out. Come on, chop, chop. Let's have you out. Every minute you're spent in the open, you're liable to get captured. I told him the first thing you should do when you get out is get yourself into some cover and then work out where you are on the map.
Local search and rescue teams are on standby to assist the SAS with the hunt.
Barry, the guys have just gone up on, for escape and evasion. What do you think are the best tactics for them?
Obviously, you need to get sort of put as much distance between yourself and the enemy as possible. A classic example from Gulf War, Bravo 20. They were bumped by the enemy, deep inside enemy territory, and most of them ran for the Syrian border. And it was about, I think, if I recall, about 300 miles. They had to cover
300 miles.
And they had to cover it in a few days. So, I mean, this is a much shorter version, but they're doing exactly the same. I mean, they're dressed the same as you do on SAS selection. They've got a grey coat, they've got a survival tin, a button compass, and a sketch map. And the sketch map, though accurate, gives them very minimal information.
As well as evading capture, the teams have 4 hours to navigate themselves to the first RV point, a distance of 8 miles away.
I think the strongest team is probably the team with Matt and Anna, Dave and Lee in it. Partly because I've seen Anna holding teams together and she seems to be able to do that, although she's not the leader of the team. And partly because the slower members perhaps didn't have injuries.
The hunter force will comb the area, assisted by search and rescue tracker dogs. A helicopter will search the higher ground.
We find
Let's keep your head down, because they can see us when they come down from the ridge. In. Fucking hell, look behind it. No. Stop down. Now we've got a problem. We seem to attract the attention of all the locals. And they're making a bit of a spectacle, all stood on the side of the road, giving our position away, so we're a little bit concerned. Yeah. This is one of the locals who's just spotted us. Our Jed. Now in the rules it did say that we weren't allowed to talk to any of the locals to get them to help us, and so we would be binned if we were caught. But we could explain the situation to them and hope we don't get caught. After all, the motto is who dares wins, and we're willing to put a little bit on the line here.
News is coming in of one of the teams.
Get your head down the ground.
And first of all, we've seen the chap at the back here. He was at the back of the group.
Dave man, yeah.
And the one at the front, the girl, she was trying to thumb a lift.
Trying to thumb a lift?
Yes, trying to thumb a lift. She had her hand out trying to slow down the traffic. They obviously realised it was us. And they could see the traffic search and rescue, and they tried to wave us just to keep going, but we've stopped. But seemingly they've only just came down the road just 2 minutes.
I cannot believe it. After everything, Eddie is going to take us for garters. One thing he said, stay off the main roads, and it's pretty serious because there's a lot of front runners there. People have done very well up to now, and there's a fair chance they could get binned for this.
Although they've been captured, the exercise is far from over.
On your knees. Go off.
They're feeling very stupid and very upset and annoyed with themselves.